This is Dear Strategy, episode 144. Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product, business, and personal strategy. I'm your host, Bob Caporelli. This is episode 144, being recorded in April of 2024. Probably not going to be released in April of 2024. I have a backlog of episodes, but I am recording it in April of 2024, if that's important, just so you can keep track of that. So in today's episode, I'm going to continue on a theme that I've been talking about in the last few episodes, which is kind of keys to small business or business success, mostly focused around how you treat your customers, right? So in the last few episodes, I've covered this topic of 2 golden rules of small business success, talking about diligently follow up, talking about never treating your customers like a burden. And that kind of leads into another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is a controversial topic that is often discussed, but I want to discuss it from maybe a little different standpoint, which is more of a standpoint of the strategy of a business, right? Which is what we're all about. So the subject I want to talk about is the tipping culture, particularly in the US. I think this is a pretty unique culture as regards tipping. Now, when I was growing up, you basically tipped certain service providers, mostly, servers at restaurant, waiters, waitresses, things of that nature, bartenders. I remember going to get a haircut for some reason. That was tipping. Cab rides, that was tipping. So there were like certain things. Somebody handled your luggage at an airport, that was, kind of worthy of a tip. There were certain services that tipping was, I would say, more acceptable, more normal. I don't know. And I always wondered why there were other services that tipping was not normal. And, you can name any of the other services that don't fall into the category of what I just said, right? For the most part. And I guess other service providers caught on to that because they started to create a tipping culture as well. And now, pretty much anybody who provides you a service, whether you're getting a delivery, whether you're getting your garbage taken out, whether you're, getting someone mowing your lawn, whatever it is, right? If you live in a building, the people that are your doorman, whatever it is, all of those pieces now are looking for tips, and they're not shy about it. They're not shy about it somehow or another. We've gotten the message out through pretty good underground marketing that you're supposed to tip nearly everybody. And then as that's been happening, the tips have been going up and up and up and up, right? So they go from 10% to 15% to 20% to 25%, 30%. And now you look on the bill, again, clever marketing, right? Companies are saying, hey, here's the tips that we recommend. And they're up to 30%. It's to me, that's a lot. I don't know. Now, maybe I'm cheap. That's fine. That's maybe a discussion for a different day on a personal level. But going out to dinner and, paying a third of the bill in a tip is a lot to begin with. But it's even more when you haven't gotten spectacular service. And now kind of tips are expected even when you're not getting spectacular service. And of course, now the latest thing with chip readers and, kind of the ease of using credit cards and credit card transactions, people are turning that screen around at you and asking for a tip just about everywhere that you go, even in places where you wouldn't expect that a tip would be required. Now, we could argue about what a tip is supposed to be for, right? It's supposed to be for outstanding service. I think that's kind of how it started, but that's almost beyond the point, because if the culture has made it not only acceptable, but almost required that you provide a tip in certain situations, then people are going to feel the social pressure to do that, whether it's something that a tip was originally intended for or not. So, kind of saying that there's some rule set that was originally followed that's not followed out, it's a moot point. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that tips are now an expected part of doing business for almost any service industry that I can think of as a consumer, right? And so that has created a lot of pressure. Now, here's where the problem comes in. And again, I'm not here to say whether tips should be something that are required, not required, this, that, the other. I mean, you clearly can see by the way I'm talking about it, what my feeling is on it personally, but that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is why tips have become so prevalent in our culture. Now, people would say, well, because, certain services are not, certain people in certain service industries are not well compensated. So tips are a big part of their income. I get that in some cases, but not always, right? And less and less. I mean, now minimum wage is a requirement in certain places. Companies are being expected to provide their employees with a living wage. You as a consumer have no way of knowing what the company is paying the employees or not. And I guarantee you, many of the employees who are asking for tips, many of the industries that are asking for tips, those employees are getting paid very well. That's not my job as a consumer to be, the kind of monitor of what people are getting paid or not, right? So that whole argument falls flat to me that, people aren't getting paid enough, so, it's up to you. No, it's up to the company. And that's really what I want to talk about here. What I think tips are being used for, you might think that they're being used for companies to supplement somebody's income. So you are paying the employees directly rather than company paying the employees. I think less and less that's the case. I mean, could be in some instances, but I think more what it's being used as is a way for companies to motivate employees, right? So, hey, take this job, which maybe isn't the most glamorous job on the face of the earth, but you make really good tips, right? Let's face it, that's what's going on. It's not always that like, hey, we're not going to pay you a lot because you're going to make good tips. It's that, no, come work for us and do this job that you may not have wanted to do, but hey, pays really good tips. And it's not even that like pays really good tips if you provide good services. It just pays really good tips. Little anecdotal, but for the most part, I think that's what's going on. So what I interpret that as is that companies are using tips to motivate their employees. But here's the problem. In many cases, they're motivating their employees at the expense of their customers, which is their lifeline, right? I mean, businesses are not going to be in business without their customers. So if you're putting burden on your customer, like we talked about in the last episode, and you're making it difficult for your customer, you're making your customers feel uncomfortable, which I'm sorry, anybody who is required to give a tip in front of an employee, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Anytime I go into fast food place, wherever else, they flip that screen around and there's a tip staring me right in the face. If I give no tip, which in most cases I feel is the right thing to do, I'm going to feel shame, right? That is not the way you should make your customers feel. And listen, companies know that that's what they're doing. They know that's what they're doing. But they're using this as a way to motivate their employees, and they're doing it at the expense of their customers. And that is a bad idea, just a bad idea. So how do you stop it? I mean, this is the bigger thing. I mean, it's up to companies, right? Companies have to change this culture. Companies have to say, no, we are not going to accept tips from you. We're going to find different ways to motivate our employees, whether that's monetarily, whether that's through the culture, whether that's giving them a piece of the business, whether that's making the job more glamorous, whatever it is, we're going to make the employees feel better about doing their jobs without requiring you as a customer to feel uncomfortable. I would love to see companies say, no tip. Sorry, we're going to take care of that. If we see that the employees are doing a great job, we're going to motivate them. If we see that they've gone above and beyond, we're going to pay them a little bit extra, right? You don't have to worry about that. We just want you in our establishment. We want you to feel comfortable as a customer. You don't need to feel the pressure, socially or otherwise, of tipping somebody. We're going to do that for you. And set that expectation so that employees feel comfortable, because listen, I'm all about people getting paid the most that they can if they're doing a great job. But I'm not about putting that decision on the customers. I just don't think that's right. Who better knows the performance of their employees than the company, right? I mean, why should I be the one to determine that? I'm here to eat a meal. You provide me a great meal. That's what I'm paying for. I shouldn't have to pay extra for that because either I feel social pressure or even if I feel somebody did an amazing job. What I should be able to do is compliment that person, go to the manager, say, hey, this person did an amazing job. And then the manager gets enough of those comments and they pay them more. That's what I should rely on. That to me is so much better of a system than making customers feel uncomfortable. Now, I know that there are going to be people that disagree with this, and that's fine. I mean, look, I'm not trying to say this is the only definitive way to go. What I am here to say is if you're a business owner or part of an industry, you should start thinking about is this idea of tipping, or maybe anything else you're doing as well. What are the things that are making your customers uncomfortable? You probably should find a way to remove that, because if customers are uncomfortable, they're going to stop frequenting your establishment. I will tell you, I am so uncomfortable with this social pressure of tipping, particularly because I don't mind tipping when the service is really good. Most times I go out to eat, the service is not good. I'm sorry. And I think the reason for that is that people have come to expect the tip no matter what. Okay. So I am forced into a situation where I feel uncomfortable. I feel that this person deserves no tip in many cases, but I have to give them a tip against my will or against my better judgment, I should say, because it's expected. And you know what the result of that is? I don't go out to eat anymore. I don't. And even those stores that flip that screen around at me, the self-serve places, right? I'm stopping there too. Like any place where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, I'm going to do it myself. I think if we did a survey, and I haven't, probably should, but if we did a survey, you'd find that I'm not the only one that feels this way. And if enough people start feeling this way and stop frequenting these establishments that are literally making you motivate their employees instead of them doing the hard work, then I think you're going to see that those businesses are going to be out of business at some point. To me, that's a problem. So I always look for places where companies can disrupt, right? Create strategies that disrupt. And I think this is one of those areas. And again, if you're an employee, say, oh my God, you're saying that we shouldn't get paid. No, I'm just saying that should not be placed on the customers. That should be placed on the companies. And the companies that really want to motivate their employees and do this right, those employees will have a much better experience at those companies. Those employees will get paid more. Those employees will get paid more because customers want to go to those establishments, and those establishments will have the money to motivate their employees and pay their employees more. That's what this will result in, at least in my estimation. Anyway, that's kind of something I wanted to talk about. It's a bit of a rant, but also ties back into business strategy. And I think the direction we're going right now is really not good. So I hope that companies start paying attention to this and start listening to what customers really want, even if they're not necessarily comfortable saying it. Anyway, I expect that some people will not like this one. If you didn't, that's okay. Let me know. You can reach me at deerstrategy.net. You click on the contact link. Let me know what you thought of this episode. You could also leave comments on the episode. What do you think? Again, not trying to put anybody out of work, actually trying to do the opposite, trying to get companies to get more business so that employees can get more. So anyway, while you're doing all that and thinking all this over, don't forget to make time for the plan. We'll see you back here on another episode of Deer Strategy. Thanks again for joining.